Hey everybody, welcome to Our Favorite Frontier, the only Star Trek podcast on the internet that's hosted by me and Nick. And by me, I mean Alex, because I'm Alex, your host, and that's Nick, your other host. Hi Nick.
How you doing, guys?
They can't answer because they're not here with us.
Well, it was kind of like you say that, but you don't expect a response. Like when you say what's up to someone, kind of as a hello, and you don't really care how their day is going. You just kind of just say it.
You're actually not even here with us, because we're not even in the same place.
We're not even in the same county.
No. We're on opposite sides of the state.
Yes, we are. You couldn't get any further apart than us two. That's a lie. We could definitely get further.
And you couldn't if you wanted to still be in New York, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I guess I could go out to Long Island if I wanted to.
You can go further out on the island, and I could technically get closer to Lake Erie. And then we could definitely have that.
But I wouldn't want to get anywhere near Long Island. Shots fired!
Absolutely. I like Long Island, but, I mean, that's me. Also, wait, you technically live on Long Island, so...
I know. Queens is technically part of Long Island, so...
Yeah, well, let's stop talking about geography of New York State. Let's get into the Star Trek episode of The Next Generation.
It is called The Last Outpost.
Captain's log, stardate 41386.4. We're in pursuit of a starship of Ferengi design. Our mission is to intercept and recover a T9 energy converter which the Ferengi stole from an unmanned monitor post on Gamma Tauri 4. A theft which automatic scanners recorded, providing us with the long-awaited opportunity to make close contact with a Ferengi vessel. If we succeed in this chase, it will be Starfleet's first look at a life form which, discounting rumor, we know almost nothing about.
And, Nick, what did you think of The Last Outpost?
Don't even get me started.
I'm gonna get you started. Start.
Ferengi, they eat people? Like... Like, would you think that would have been a more prominent point of the episode since that was, like, the big thing that they mentioned in Farpoint?
You'd think that they would have done literally anything to make the Ferengi threatening.
Yes, I couldn't believe it. They looked like jacked up Oompa Loompas that got hit with a frying pan.
In the ears.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
I have so many comments about this episode.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I have a lot to say about this episode, but it's really mostly about the Ferengi because not a whole lot really goes on in this episode.
Not at all.
Other than we're just supposed to we're just introduced to the Ferengi. And since that falls comically flat, the episode is kind of pointless because everything is pointless.
Honestly, like, if you skip this episode, you wouldn't be missing anything, honestly, except for an introduction to the Ferengi, which I would assume would show up in more episodes.
So basically what's going to happen with the Ferengi is I think they're going to show up one or two more times as the villains, and then they're going to realize that this isn't working, and the Ferengi they will show up in later episodes of The Next Generation, but more as comic relief or just as... You know, hey, we need to make a deal with the Ferengi, blah, blah, blah. We'll get some stuff.
So they realize that their malicious intent falls flat and that they become more of another piece of the show, just in a completely different vibe.
Exactly. And then when you move on to one of the spin-off shows, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, you actually have Quark, who's a Ferengi, and he's one of the main characters.
So do they just take villains from other series and make them part of the staff of the Enterprise?
So that's one of the things that's kind of interesting about Star Trek, just to get a little bit sidetracked.
You're so funny.
Is that, I sort of like this about Star Trek, is that it shows that peace is not made through war. Peace is made through making alliances. And so in the original series, you have Klingons as the bad guys. And then here we are, Next Generation, we have Klingons on the bridge and they're helping. There's an agreement. But now the Ferengis are the bad guys. And Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the Ferengis are working alongside. They're not part of Starfleet in Deep Space Nine. Quark is a bartender, basically. But... they sort of work together. They're sort of piece through alliances, which is sort of fun. But one of the things that's interesting about this episode, obviously you wouldn't know this, Nick, but to listeners, who are familiar with Star Trek is that Quark in Deep Space Nine is played by Armin Shimmerman. And also, so is one of the Ferengi here, is also played by Armin Shimmerman. Armin Shimmerman is doomed to play either Ferengis or Cosmo Kramer's caddy.
I do love him, though.
Yeah, so you got to see him as a Ferengi.
Very nice.
But yeah, the Ferengi basically, they drop they don't even, you get to later Star Trek, they don't even talk like they did in this episode anymore, where they had mixed up Yoda syntax and all sorts of crazy statements. Basically, especially when you get to Deep Space Nine, Quark is just kind of a sleazy bartender who just sort of listens and eavesdrops and just sort of gets in on all the gossip. And he talks just like anyone else. The only real remnant is that they like to make money and they say humans.
Yeah, I felt like 100% that these villains completely fell flat, as you said.
Yeah. Yep.
And a few things from the episode I don't get, and always for me, goes back to how awkward of a character Data is. Because I feel like in this first season, he's still trying to learn how to be a human, even though I'm not sure how old he even is. The last episode we just watched, Data's arc in that episode is how he can't make a joke.
Correct.
Yes. So, right off the bat, Data starts talking about Yankee traders and how they won't look like Uncle Sam in a punny way. So, did they just forget his slight stupid arc that they made a whole big deal about in the last episode? Because he seemed pretty quick at the bat for that joke, though it wasn't very good.
He does that, and he also attempts some slang with the whole nothing to write home about kind of thing. They're attempting to humanize him, yes.
Yeah, but it has to be a longer process. Rome wasn't built in a day. It feels like we're making these arcs for Data, and then the next episode is like there's not even a struggle with what we previously established with him. Which I think is just rushing, but again, I could be thinking way too into this.
It's rushing at a very superficial level, which is the thing what's frustrating is that they say, how do we make Data more human? Jokes. Humans make jokes. Slang. Humans make slang. And so they try to rush all these little things with him in the first season because that's what makes us human. But as I'm speaking as a human here, that's not what makes me human. There's a lot deeper emotional and intellectual stuff going on that defines me as a human. And eventually they sort of realize that, it's more of the emotional core and the philosophical core is what they should be exploring with Data. But yeah, you get some real clunky Data stuff here at the beginning.
Especially when my issue is that it goes to the wayside for the next episode. Like, it wasn't even, why bring this up in the last episode if the next episode, he's still not going to struggle? Like, if he, made a bad joke and they're like, oh, did I do it right? Like, a callback to the fact that he can't make a joke and show that there's character development where he's starting to understand being a human, it'd be different. But I feel like he never understands, and then the next episode, he completely understands. I just think it's kind of a little bit of a poor writing tactic. Also, let's talk about Chinese finger traps.
Let's talk about Chinese finger traps.
It just came out of nowhere. There was really no setup for it. All of a sudden, Data was a Chinese finger trap, and it was supposed to be the funniest thing in the world.
The only thing I could think of where it came from is because there was that real weird, awkward moment where they walk into a conference room, and there's two kids playing in there. And Riker's like, get out of here. Boys will be boys. Ha, ha, ha. My only thought is, did they leave the finger trap in there? And that's where it came from. But, shit. It's just shit.
Also, I had a really big problem with the Ferengi weapons they had. They have guns or whips. The dildo things they have.
Comically stupid whip
They
guns.
were giant Ferengi dildos.
I was thinking more pool noodles, but if you wanted to take the sexual route, you can.
Oh, absolutely. That's the only way I'd go. When it's Star Trek, it's synonymous with sex.
Fair enough.
Honestly, I just found the entire episode embarrassing, especially since when they went down to the planet to meet the Ferengi and they got in their fight with their giant dildos and shit. And then that bearded guy comes out and has no idea what they're talking about, I feel, and then he just releases their ships. And it was that was so anticlimactic.
And it was that still is sort of that remnant from the 60s where Gene Roddenberry loves his all-powerful person and comes down to judge humanity. And so, of course, Riker has to sort of talk his way to prove that humans, we've made some mistakes, but we're overcoming them, and blah blah blah, and so the guy says, humans are, you're allowed to be. I'll release your ships. Go out, and
It's so dumb because it felt like the entire episode was a waste if it was that easy.
yeah.
Also, let's talk about Riker and Picard.
Okay.
I feel like Riker is more of the captain than Picard. I feel like he is really making all the shots and going out and doing more of the stuff, and he reminds me a lot more of Kirk than Picard does. Picard's really doesn't do much for me right now. I hope that he changes because obviously he's a very popular character, and he's looked after, and they always compare Kirk and Picard. But I feel like Riker acts more like that leadership role.
So that's one of the things that's interesting, and this will sort of, I think Picard ultimately turns out to be a better captain than Kirk in terms of like if I was going to get on a spaceship, who would I feel more comfortable getting onto? I think Picard ends up being a better captain. But right now, Picard, and to be fair, he does maintain this a little bit, but especially in this episode, Picard's role is basically, I'm going to just listen to what all of my crew says and try to make a decision based on that. Which is a good, but it makes him, you're right, it makes him look like he's not calling the shots, whereas Riker's calling the shots. But overall, Riker actually is a closer person to Kirk personality-wise than Picard ever will be.
I feel like he acts more like the captain than Picard does.
That's based on this episode. That's fair. So let's talk about we got a little bit of Counselor Deanna Troi. She doesn't do much. She just says, "I sense this, I sense that, whatever."
Oh my goodness! The first episode, I felt like they were good. They did the poor introductions to these characters. They make you try to instantly like them, and it doesn't go anywhere for me. And then they put everyone in the backseat, I feel, except for Data, Riker, Picard. Well, Yar had her day, but Yar is kind of thrown back to the side. I don't know anything about Worf. I don't really know anything about, I forget the lady who can sense things, but her power is pointless. Because I think it's honestly, like, it's just a really big cop-out, because she's like, I can sense things from other ships, but how far does your sense go? Can you sense the whole universe? Like, what's going on here? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with this character?
Yeah, she's not... I don't particularly like Deanna Troi. But there's one character who I want to talk about a little bit, because he's one of my favorite characters. And watching this episode made me hate him a lot, because it's season 1. What the hell's going on with Geordi LaForge here?
I was expecting a lot from, obviously, an acclaimed actor like LeVar Burton. I would expect a lot more from him.
And the thing is, he's wildly different than the previous episodes we've discussed in that all of a sudden he's this weird, like he's got this weird sarcasm to him. And he at one point when they're down in engineering talking about sort of where they're working on this little plan with the warp drive, he does his best Mr. Poopy Butthole impression. He goes, "Hoo-wee!"
I see where you're going. We ship down, then kick hard into warp 9. Yeah, come back fighting. Woo-wee!
Hoo-wee! Come and get it, kitty.
It's like, what are you doing?
It's like
Forge?
It's like they're still trying to develop their characters. Because I feel like the writing is not that good, and the actors are still trying to play with stuff, and the writers are still trying to play with stuff.
And it's fair that the characters aren't fully formed yet. That's fair. And, lots of TV shows sort of the characters change. But they're changing and bouncing around at a breakneck pace. There's very little consistency in them. And that's, I think, a bigger problem.
Every episode, I feel like the characters are different.
Yeah, and that's a problem.
Okay, this is the big question I have. When does Riker get a beard?
Season 2.
Okay, because that's how I see him on everything online. It's just him with a beard. Any small video or anything.
That's because no one wants anything to do with Riker Season 1, because no one wants anything to do with anything Season 1. Because it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks real bad.
Yeah, but back to LaForge, I just do completely find that he's still trying to find his footing as a character.
Yeah, and that's true. All in all, though, I will say I think maybe it was just the laughing at the Ferengi, or just the awkwardness of the whole situation. I thought this was more entertaining than the last episode we watched.
Absolutely. The last episode, I couldn't even. You remember the conversation? I couldn't even have it.
Yeah, it was. Last episode was rough. At least this one, we got some goofy, jokey. Like we got lots of entertaining material out of it. So I can at least give that to the episode.
I definitely remember this one a lot better. So I hope this is a up and up. But again, I do not know with this season.
The show, from where we are, it can only get better.
I certainly hope so.
And I can assure you that it does.
Well, I'll put that ball in your court. I'm gonna watch the next episode and we're gonna get this our next episode out as soon as we get it.
Yep, we got the next episode is where no one has gone before.
Ooh, where no one's gone before.
Yeah,
That's in the theme song.
it is indeed. Can we talk about real quick? Can we just talk about how the theme song? I guess you don't know that it sounds cheap. The theme song sounds real cheap, and they like re-record it for seasons 2 and on, and it just sounds way better. But that's besides the point. That's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, do anything that involves you following us so you can hear us talk about it more, so that way you can hear us talk about this more.
We need your support because for the amount of a cup of coffee a day, you could buy a cup of coffee.
I'm going to end the episode now because that was a very, very...
Bad.
Was that even a joke?
Yeah, it was. I was trying to be funny. It didn't work.
Much like the Ferengi. The Ferengi
Yeah.
worked better than your joke.
Well, I'm very upset that you said that, and now you know what? I might just cancel my contract.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Our Favorite Frontier is hosted by Alex Russo and Nick Caladona, edited by Alex Russo, and produced by Nerdy Inc. Be sure to follow us on YouTube to catch all of our videos, as well as like us on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media we have.